Cognizant to the needs of our learners, parents, and teachers, the Department of Education provided us with powerful tools for productivity that will allow us to foster critical thinking skills, problem-solving skills, communication and collaboration skills to be compassionate, responsible global citizens. Join us and discover new ideas in our series of professional development training program with the ICT's Edtech Unit and Microsoft Education Philippines. Together, we will equip our learners and empower our fellow educators for a dynamic future. Para sa bata, para sa bayan, at para sa guro. Sulong Edukalidad.
Magandang araw, Sir Wilbur po, at your service. Narito ang ETUlay upang gabayan ka sa inyong pag-aaral upang lubos na maunawaan ang iba't ibang paksa o subject. Ang ETUlay ay isang free online tutorial class na pinangungunahan ng ICT's Educational Technology Unit sa pamumuno ni Undersecretary Elaine Del B. Pascua. Ang programang ito ay hindi lamang para sa mga bata, kundi ito rin ay magsisilbing gabay sa mga magulang at mga guro kung paano nila ituturo o gagabayan sa bawat asignatura ang kanilang mga anak o mga estudyante. Sa kasalukuyan, ang self-learning module mula sa rehiyon ng Calabarzon at kilala sa tawag na pivot ang ginagamit sa ating ETUlay online class. Kaya ano pang hinihintay ninyo? Ihanda na ang inyong mga ballpen o lapis, papel o kwaderno at samahan kaming itulay ang pagkatuto para sa bawat batang Pilipino. Sama-sama tayong magtutulungan para malampasan ang mga hamon sa panahong ito. Halina't matuto kasama ang inyong online tutor sa oras na ito.
Ayan, good afternoon po sa mga nanonood ngayon sa ating ETUlay online tutorial session ngayong Biyernes, Matalino Friday. Ako po si Tutor Joshua, ang inyong makakasama for Mathematics 8 at ngayon po ay nasa quarter 4, week number 5 na po tayo ngayong school year 2020-2021. Sabi nga po ni Teacher Wilbur, no, itong ETUlay online tutorial session natin ay hindi lamang para sa mga estudyante. Ito rin po ay para sa mga magulang at mga guro para magabayan po ang ating mga anak ngayon po school year na 2020-2021. Ito pong week number 5 ay yung ating unang linggo ng paglipat o pag-aaral muli ng bagong branch ng mathematics, or actually parang magre-review tayo ng mga natutunan natin ng mga nakaraang grade level. Babalikan natin ngayong week number 5 for quarter 4. Pero wag niyong kakalimutan, no? Lalo na yung mga mula quarter 1, syempre hanggang quarter 3. Dahil ulitin lang natin sila, dadagdagan natin yung kaalaman natin in those lessons for the next grade level dahil sa ating spiral curriculum. So, let's batiin po natin yung ating manonood. Sila si Miss Rosemary Farinas from Ramon Central School on Ramon District ng Isabela. Ayan, good afternoon po. So ngayon po, sabi ko nga, ito ay bagong branch ng mathematics. Hindi muna tayo hindi na yung katuluyan, no, yung pagtutuloy ng ating lesson for geometry ay makikita na natin pag sa third quarter ulit ng grade 9, which is on quadrilaterals. Kaya wag niyong kakalimutan. Lahat ng ating tutorial sessions ay available sa ating DepEd TV YouTube channel, pati na rin sa DepEd ETU, pati sa Facebook. Makikita natin yan lalo kung gusto niyo ma-review or ma-refresh yung ideas dun sa ating mga lesson. So ngayon, medyo lilipat nga tayo ng branch na matematika. And for this topic, we will illustrate and actually review ano ba yung experiment, ano ba yung outcome, sample space, and event. Because as early as grade 3 at grade 4, meron na tayong konsepto ng experiment outcome. Ngayon, dadagdagan natin siya ng konsepto ng sample space at ano ba yung ibig sabihin ng event na yan. And later on, magbibilang tayo, count the number of occurrences of an outcome in an experiment. Kasi sa isang experiment, may lalabas na mga posibleng resulta. At yung mga resulta na yun, pwedeng paulit-ulit, pwedeng isang beses lang makita, and actually pwede ring imposible na mangyari or yung number of occurrence ay hindi natin makikita or malalaman. So yun yung ating objective for today. So review tayo. Ito yung last lesson natin for geometry for grade 8, parallel lines and perpendicular lines, and how to show two lines are parallel or two lines are perpendicular. Ang kailangan lang natin tandaan, pag parallel yung lines, they are on the same plane. Kumbaga nasa isang patag, nasa isang papel. Hindi sila non-coplanar. So, and they do not intersect. So, hindi sila nag-meet yung ating parallel lines. And for the perpendicular lines in Euclidean geometry, these are lines or segments that form right angles when they intersect. So, hindi lang kasi lines kapag nag-intersect ang makakabuo ng perpendicularity. Kapag nakabuo tayo na 90 degrees gamit ang dalawang subsets ng line. Pwedeng segment, pwedeng rays, and actually pwede rin na iba't ibang sides. Makaka-form tayo ng perpendicular segments and lines. So hindi lang siya pa-cross, pwede siyang magmukhang letter T, pwede rin siya magmukhang letter L. Depende dun sa ating illustration. And last time also, ayan, nakapag-prove tayo ng parallelism or pagiging parallel ng dalawang lines. Saka, nakapaghanap tayo ng measurement given or in such a way na magpa-parallel or magiging parallel yung dalawang lines na gusto nating maging parallel. Kasi nga, usually or sometimes sa ating illustration, hindi akma or hindi sakto yung na ipapakita nung drawing. So para maging sakto siya, nilalagyan natin siya ng symbols para hindi tayo basta mag-assume kung parallel ba sila, kung 90 degrees ba, or kung congruent. So hindi pwedeng mag-assume in geometry unless specified as a given sa statement or given sa illustration. So that's one of the most important things when studying or analyzing the figure. Bawal tayo mag-assume, kailangan kung ano na yung binigay na information, yun yung gagamitin natin. So in this case, masasolve natin yung value ng x by applying properties and relationships formed by the angles when the parallel lines are cut by a transversal. In this case, ang mangyayari daw kasi, ang line na nagpapakita ng ganitong symbol, may triangle, ang ibig sabihin daw niyan ay parallel sila. Okay? So, dahil parallel daw sila, any line that intersect those parallel lines will be the transversal. So, itong part na ito ay nasa left. This is the first transversal. Then, the one on the right side is the second transversal. So, ayan o, malinaw. Hindi natin alam kung pantay sila. So, we need to say or safely assume na they are not the same all the time. So, masasolve natin yung value ng x using different properties. Tulad nga nung nakaraan, dahil ito ay 90, alam natin na yung buo ay 130. So, this will become 40 degrees. There are so many ways to solve for the value of x. Kaya, kahit anong gamitin natin, actually, makukuha niyo yung sagot. Basta, the process is logical, the process is supported by properties and definitions na ginagamit natin for geometry. Okay? So, wag natin yung kakalimutan kahit nasa grade 9, third quarter pa natin sila babalikan. So, let's move to the topic for this week, which is on um, probability. Pero before we define probability, we need to recall some terms. Okay? When we have probability, kailangan muna natin ng isang experiment. Yung experiment, naririnig nyo yan in science classes. Okay? Kung saan merong trials, merong activities na ginagawa na pinag-aaralan natin and we observe. Ano yung ino-observe natin sa ating experiment? Okay? Sa ating experiment, it's just an activity that can be replicated. Ayan, that can be replicated which leads to results. Ano ibig sabihin nun? Yung activity or yung isang gawain na pwedeng ulit-ulitin. Tapos kapag ginawa natin siya, may makukuha tayong resulta. May makukuha tayong kakalabasan dun sa isang experiment. At yun yung ating ino-observe. Bakit siya kailangan na-replicate? Kasi when we do experiments, as much as possible, lahat ng pwedeng mangyari, nare-record natin, nakikita natin. Okay? And kahit na paulit-ulit din yung nag-iisang result na iyon, it's still part of the experiment. At yun yung maganda dun sa replication. Nakikita natin lahat ng possible outcomes. And that's the second term, outcomes. An outcome is a possible result to an experiment. Okay? So it's just another term for the term result dun sa ating experiment. So pwedeng isa, pwedeng marami. And every set of all possible outcomes is the sample space. Ito na yung collection ng lahat ng possible outcomes. Pero syempre, depende pa rin siya doon sa experiment. Okay? So sa experiment 1, for example, may outcome A, outcome B. Sa experiment 2, may ibang set ng outcomes. Magkaiba sila ng sample space. Even if they share the same outcome, so kunwari sa experiment 2, ang outcome niya ay outcome A and outcome C. Magkaiba pa rin sila ng sample space. Kasi the sample space pertain to the experiment itself, the set of all possible outcomes. Then, a part of the sample space is called the event. It is the subset, yun nga, parte siya, ng sample space, in which we usually get favorable outcomes. Ano yung favorable outcomes? Yung outcomes na lalabas doon sa specified event. Okay? We will have so many examples of that kasi usually nalilito yung ating mga estudyante when we're dealing with outcomes, sample space, and event. Ang tatandaan lang natin, no? Ang sample space, nilalaman niya lahat ng posibleng kakalabasan doon sa experiment. Sa event, parte lang. Group lang siya or category or something that they share the common set of outcomes. Pero hindi lahat. Depende doon sa event. Okay? So let's have examples para mas maintindihan natin. Okay? So for the first activity, we're just going to answer the following questions. The first question is, how many possible outcomes are there in tossing a coin? Okay? So sa isang coin, so sa isang barya, ilan ba yung pwedeng lumabas kapag hinagis or tinos natin yung isang coin? Kapag lumapag siya sa sahig or sa palad natin. So dahil flat surface lang naman siya, at kapag finlip natin, there are only actually two outcomes. Alam na natin yon na dalawa yung possible na outcomes. Pwedeng head, pwedeng tails. Okay? So actually we have two. Yun na yun. Pero to be more specific, break down natin yung question. Okay? Para mabilang talaga natin kung ilan yung outcomes. Okay? So let's break down. Alamin muna natin kung ano yung experiment dito. So The experiment is tossing the coin. Okay? Tossing the coin. That is the activity that will yield to a result. At pwedeng ulit-ulitin yung pagtotoss ng coin. Kahit na isa yung lalabas na sagot, kukunin natin lahat nung posibleng lumabas. Yun kasi yung pinaka-question. How many possible outcomes? So, ilan yung mga pwedeng lumabas? So, ano-ano ba yung mga pwedeng lumabas? It's head, or yung tao, and then tail, or yung ibon sa Tagalog. O yung colloquial term natin kapag nag-flip tayo ng coin. So we have two possible outcomes. Pwedeng head, pwedeng tail. Then when we write the sample space, it's just a set. So alalahanin natin kung paano sinusulat yung set. Sinusulat natin yung set using curly brackets or braces. And then lalagay lang natin yung element. At ano yung element? Yung mga possible outcomes. So there are many ways to write the sample space. Pwedeng in words, pwedeng in symbols. So we could use H and T to the to represent the sample space. Okay? So after breaking down, let's analyze possible outcomes na natin kukunin doon sa laman ng sample space. At ilan yung laman ng sample space? There are two. So dalawa yung laman. Kasi nga sample space is the set of all possible outcomes. So bibilangin lang natin siya. That's the answer for how many. Pero again, no, depende siya sa question. In this case, we're talking about the experiment itself. Kaya kinukuha natin yung sample space. Okay? Again, that's the reminder. We're talking about the experiment, kaya kukunin natin number ng sample space. So ayan, nakatama si Miss Queenie Perdomasig, pati si Hannah Lucy Kawilan. Ayan. And heads or tails, sabi ni Miss Queen. Okay? So let's have number 2. How many possible outcomes are there in rolling a regular six-faced die? Okay? Yung die, ayan, D-I-E, ayan, nabigay yung experiment. Regardless, when you say die, it's the singular term ng dice. Okay? It's the singular term ng dice. Plural yung dice kapag 2 or more. Bakit naka-specify yung six-faced die? Because there are different types of dice. Meron tayong 4-faced and actually hanggang 20-faced die or 20-sided, meron din tayo. So we need to specify the number of faces. Bakit tinawag siyang regular? Kasi there are dice na iba yung nakasulat kada face. Hindi siya 1 to 6. Pwedeng A, B, C, D, E, F. Or actually kahit yung mga building blocks ng bata or ng baby, pwedeng circle yung nakaprint sa isang face, pwedeng triangle yung nakasulat sa isang face. So we need to specify kung anong klaseng die siya or dice. So it's a regular six-faced die. So in this case, the experiment is rolling a six-faced die. And alam natin, laro na yung mga nakapaglaro kayo ng Snake and Ladders or Monopoly, na yung isang die or isang dice, 6 nga yung lalabas na 1 to 6. So the possible outcomes are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So again, to know the total number of possible outcomes, bibilangin lang natin siya kung ilan yung nasa sample space, which is 6. Ayan. So nakatama naman yung ating mga viewers for this number. Okay? Ngayon, the experiment is still the same, but the question is different. How many possible outcomes are there in rolling an even result in a six-faced die? So again, no, ang experiment or the activity is rolling the die. Rolling the 6-faced die. So, hindi natin siya binago. Ano yung gusto nating kunin? Okay? It's even result. Okay? Rolling an even result in a 6-faced die. So, dahil may gusto tayong makita or gusto nating kunin, ito na yung tinatawag nating event. Kasi the event is usually used in getting favorable. Yung gusto natin makita ang resulta. So the event here is rolling an even result. And syempre, we have the favorable outcomes. Ano-ano ba yung even sa dice or sa 6-face na die? So we have 2, we have 4, and we have 6. Okay, so meron tayong 3. And answer is 3. So take note, no, hindi ko nilagay yung sample space dito para hindi tayo malito. When we say sample space, we use that for experiments. Pero when we deal with events, specific kasi siya, we categorize them, and favorable outcomes na yung mas magandang tawag para hindi tayo nalilito. Okay? When we have events, we're counting the favorable outcomes. So 2, 4, 6. Ayan. So that's how you get the number of favorable outcomes. Again, bini-breakdown natin siya para makuha natin siya na mas maayos. Yan. For number 4, how many possible outcomes are there in rolling a multiple of 4 in a 20-faced die? So ito na, no? Again, marami tayong klase ng dice mula sa 4 hanggang 20. Makakakita kayo niyan. And in this case, meron ulit specific na pinapahanap sa atin. So kapag may specific na pinapahanap sa atin, we're counting the outcomes doon sa isang event. Okay, so let's break this down. What do you think would be the experiment? Kung kanina, 6-face die ang niro-roll, ngayon we have a 20-face die. So rolling a 20-face die. Next, again, kinukuha natin is multiple of 4. So we have an event. The event is rolling a result. Yung lalabas daw ay multiple of 4 o yung mga numbers na divisible by 4 daw. Na nandun sa dice. Kasi kunwari, 40. Multiple of 4 naman yun eh. Okay? Kaya lang, hindi siya kasama dun sa dice. Kasi 1 to 20 lang yung meron tayo. So kailangan, alam natin yung scope limitation natin o yung hangganan lang nung meron tayo dun sa experiment. Okay? So, naka-include sa experiment yung dami actually nung pagkukuhanan natin. Yung limit, yung kakayahan lang natin na makuha. Okay? So, ano-ano yung mga multiple of 4? So, we list down the favorable outcomes. We have this. We have 4, we have 8, we have 12, 16, and 20. Meron pa ba? So, to check kung meron pa, pick a number and try to divide it by 4. If you get an integer na result or yung whole number na result, kasama siya. Eh dahil actually kaya lang naman natin mag-skip counting from 4 to 20. Makukuha na natin yung lahat. So ilan lahat? 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. The answer is 5. Ayan, tama ulit si Queenie and si Hannah Lucy Kawilan. So, ganun lang siya, no? Magbibilang lang tayo. Pero we make sure that we follow the instructions. Kung ano yung pinapahanap. Kasi mamaya, sumobra yung natin, yung nabilang natin. So, let's double check everything kahit na binibilang lang natin actually kung ilan yung sagot. Kasi kapag masyado nang malaki yung number, sabihin natin na may palabunutan tayo na 1 to 50. Ang hirap niyang isulat lahat. So hindi natin siya masusulat ng 1 to 50 per se. Pero again, we just need to be sure enough na lahat ng kasali ay maisali natin. Okay? So last item for the first activity. Ayan. There are 3 red, 6 blue, and 1 yellow marble in a bag. How many possible outcomes are there in drawing one at random? Okay? So let's analyze first. Let's break it down. Ano ba yung experiment? Meron daw tayong mga marble sa bag and gustong mangyari is mag-draw ng one. When you say draw, hindi ito yung mag-drawing as in illustrate or mag-painting. Drawing means bubunot. Okay, bubunot tayo ng isa at random. Kasi syempre kapag hindi siya random, alam mo na yung lalabas na sagot. Okay? So, that's the experiment. Drawing a marble or one marble at random. Next, do we have a specific event na sinabi dun sa question? Tandaan, ang event is yung gusto nating makita or mangyari na specific. So the question is just possible outcomes kapag bumunot tayo ng isa. So walang specific. Hindi niya ipinapa-specify kung kulay, kung anong kulay, or actually kung size, pwede rin sa size. Pero in this case, color kasi yung ginamit na classification or categories. So dahil wala tayong in-specify na event, we're talking about the sample space. So ayan. So the sample space, again, is the possible outcomes ng buo. Meron tayong 3 red, meron tayong 6 na blue, at meron tayong 1 yellow. We have 3 colors. Okay? We have 3 colors. Pero when we are counting the outcomes, iisa-isahin natin sila. So the sample space would look like this. We have R1. R represents the red marble. Yung unang red na marble. So red 1, red 2, red 3. Next, we have 6 blue marbles. B1 hanggang B6. And then dahil 1 lang yung yellow natin, hindi na natin kailangan lagyan ng Y1. Bakit ganito natin siya isusulat? Kasi kahit na magkamukha yung ating marbles, identical in color and size and shape, magkaibang marble pa rin siya. Kung bibigyan natin siya ng special na pangalan, let's say marble A and marble B, kahit parehong kulay silang red, marble A and marble B pa rin sila. They are identical but distinct in value kung tutusin. So we have 10 possible outcomes. Kasi nga 10 yung marbles natin. How do we get? We just have 3 plus 6 plus 1. Again, this question is usually confusing para dun sa iba kasi nga tinitingnan is the number of colors. Pero ano ba yung pinapahanap? Marble. Drawing a marble at random. Hindi naman drawing a color at random. Okay? So, titingnan natin kung ano yung specified doon sa question. So, in this case, drawing a marble at random, we have 10 possible outcomes. Pwedeng 3 na red or 3 outcomes are red. 6 outcomes are blue. And then 1 outcome is yellow. So, correct answer is 10. So that's how you count outcomes in a simple experiment. Yung isa lang yung nangyayari at a time. Kasi kanina, isang coin lang siya, tapos isang die, kahit na 6 yung mukha nun. And in this case, isang marble lang ang kukunin natin. Ngayon naman, there are other ways to list your outcomes. Lalo na kapag magkasabay yung events or yung experiment. So in this case, the experiment is, basahin muna natin yung question. How many outcomes are there in tossing 2 coins at the same time? So dito, the experiment is, nakasulat na sa dulo, tossing 2 coins at the same time. There are no specific events na sinasabi, so we're going to get the total, yung kalahatan. Okay? So dahil dalawa na yung coins natin, hindi na natin siya basta-basta pwedeng isulat, ililista. We need to analyze. Okay? So alam natin na yung unang coin, sabihin natin yung piso, pwedeng lumabas head. Yung unang coin. And then yung pangalawang coin ay head din. So in this case, we have HH. Paano kung yung unang coin ay tail? Okay? Pwede ring head yung sumunod na coin. So, kumbaga, 5 piso kunwari. Pwede rin actually na head yung una, pero tail yung pangalawa. Pwede rin namang tail yung una, tail din yung pangalawa. So, are there any more outcomes na pwede nating makita? Kasi nga, dalawa lang naman yung pwedeng lumabas sa isang coin and dalawa lang naman yung coin. So, there are none. We have 4. So, we could list them down one by one. Kaya lang, ang delikado rito is, mamaya, naisulat na pala natin, tapos maulit pa sa susunod na lista. So, kailangan may pakita na kagad natin kung ilan yung lalabas without just guessing. Kasi kanina, nililista lang natin siya as we think habang iniisip natin. So, there are 2 ways to list outcomes kapag we have multiple experiments or events. That is the tree diagram and the table. So, unahin natin yung table para natin siya gagawin. So, we have 2 coins. Sabihin natin coin 1. Coin 1. Ano ang pwedeng lumabas kay coin 1? Pwedeng head. Pwedeng tail. Okay? So, dito, again, dalawa yung pwedeng lumabas. Next, saan na nilalagay si coin 2? Nalagay natin si coin 2 dito sa gilid. Coin 2. Pwedeng head, pwedeng tail. So, yan. So, syempre, gagawa nga tayo ng table, parang multiplication table. Kailangan, as much as possible, pantay sila kung saan sila magmi-meet, ayun yung lalabas na outcome. So, sa coin 1, we have H. Sa coin 2, we have H. So, HH or head-head. Next, coin 1. Again, coin 1 is tail, but coin 2 is head. So, unahin natin syempre si coin 1 based dun sa table natin. Pwede ba magkabaliktad si coin 1 and coin 2? Pwede. As long as yung pagkakasulat nyo on the table ay parehas pa din nung notion kung nasan si 1 at nasan si 2. Kasi nga, kahit na parehong piso yan, kahit na magkamukha sila. That is coin 1 and coin 2. Magkaibang barya sila. Kahit na identical yung itsura. Then we have here, coin 1 is H. And then we have coin 2 is tail or T. And then for the last one, we have 2 tails. Okay? So hindi natin siya basta-basta binabasa na by letters. Binabasa rin natin siya as the letters represent. So kung HH, we read that as head. Okay? Hindi siya by letter binabasa. So how many possible outcomes? Given this table, we have 4. So pwede natin ilista, pwede natin siyang i-table. The next one is using a tree diagram. When we have a tree diagram, so start tayo sa isang tuldok. So sa isang tuldok na yon, saan siya pupunta? Yung unang coin, ilan yung pwedeng lumabas? 2. Pwedeng head, pwedeng tail. That is coin number 1. Next, si coin number 2. Dahil 2 na yung pwedeng mangyari kay coin number 1, gagawa tayo ng 2 tuldok ngayon. Yung coin number 1, head, anong pwedeng mangyari kay coin number 2? Pwedeng head, pwedeng tail. That is coin number 2. Kung yung tail yung una, pwede pa ring head yung pangalawa, pwede ring tail yung pangalawa. Meron pa bang susunod? Wala na. So, we have H or head, tail, head, and tail. So, we have shown in all different methods, pare-parehas na lalabas yung sagot, which is 4, yung bilang. And then later on, pag-aaralan natin kung paano kunin yung event describing a certain event, yun nga, dun sa isang experiment. When we deal with probability na. Okay, so let's practice. Kaya how many possible outcomes are there in tossing 3 coins at the same time? So ngayon, pag 3 coins na, hindi na tayo pwedeng gumamit ng table. Bakit? Kasi ang table is 2-dimensional. So kung 2-dimensional lang siya, up to 2 objects lang yung pwede natin gamitin. At dahil 3 na ito, kailangan more than 2 dimensions yung ating ipapakita. So in this case, we have to use the tree diagram only. So again, let's start sa una. Sa isang tuldok. Sa coin number 1, ano yung pwedeng lumabas? Pwedeng head, pwedeng tail. Sa coin number 2, pwede pa ring head, pwede pa ring tail. Pero kapag head yung coin 1, pag tail yung coin 1, actually pwede pa ring head, pwede pa ring tail. So we're just repeating results. Okay? May effect yun at actually kukunin natin for the next topic. And then we have coin 3. Still have H and then T. H and then T. H and then T. H and then T. So ilan lahat? Kasi 3 coins na yan. We have 3 head. We have HHT, HTH, HTT, THH, THT, TH, and then long tails. So we have 8 total possible outcomes. Okay? Tandaan na, it's at the same time. So, we classify, kahit magkabali-baliktad yung letters. Again, kinukuha natin is 3 different coins, even if they are identical in shape, size, and form. Magkakaibang barya yan. Okay? So, let's have the second activity. Mabilis lang. So, determine the possible outcomes of each experiment using a tree diagram or a table. Okay? The first one is tossing a coin and rolling a regular 6-faced die at the same time. So, in this case, may coin daw tayo and regular 6-faced die. Does the order differ? Not necessarily, kasi ang tanong lang naman ay ilan lahat ng possible outcomes. So magbibilang lang tayo. So pwedeng gumamit tayo ng table, no? Kasi we have 2 objects, a coin and a die. So we have coin, lagay natin dito yung coin sa kaliwa. Kapag coin, we have head, we have tail. Next, we have the dice or the die. Usually, kapag ganito, ang notion natin for 6-faced die is D6. Bakit D6? Kasi nga 6-faced siya. At ano yung mga possible lumabas? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you're going to list them down, ayusin na natin yung table. Ayan. So dyan pa lang, makikita nyo na kung ilan na yung sagot. Ilan na yung possible na lumabas na final answer. Okay? So, in the spirit of naming all outcomes. Ayan naming all outcomes, lilista talaga natin siya. So, kung unahin natin si coin, so we have H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6. Ayan. Then we have T1, T2, T3, T4, T5, T6. So again, the instruction is determine the possible outcome. So pinapalista pala talaga sa atin kung ano-ano yung mga posibleng results. Okay? Pero kapag ang tanong is how many, syempre, ibibigay natin is the how many possible, kailangan complete yung tanong, possible outcomes. Bibilangin na lang natin. So how many are the outcomes? We have 12. So again, based pa lang dun sa paggawa natin ng table, mabibilang na natin kung ilan sila. Okay? So I hope that you get that. Kasi we will use another method next week. Ginagamit natin yung table to list down the outcomes. Pero when we're counting, there is actually a technique that we will use dun sa pagbibilang ng lahat. Okay? Next, in getting the sum of the results in rolling a 2 regular 6-faced die. So meron tayong 6-faced die, that would be a 6x6 table. Ibig sabihin, 36 ang outcomes. May mauulit. Pero sabi ko nga kanina, no, kahit may maulit na value, or maulit na color, or maulit na result, the outcome or outcomes are different. Kasi nga, kunwari, makuha natin is 7. Maraming possible combination na lalabas ang sagot is 7. So, kailangan nating i-specify. So, in this case, we have to add to the results of 2 dice. So, we have just 1 plus 1. Again, sum ang hinahanap. Hindi tayo mag-multiply. So, 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. Then 4, 5, 6, 7. And actually, again, pwede natin siya gawin in any method. Pwedeng pa-vertical naman yung susunod. And 1 plus 2 is 3. 1 plus 3 is 4. then 5, then 6, then 7. So if you notice, naulit yung ibang values. But again, they are different outcomes per se. Okay? Magkaiba sila ng kinalabasan. Kasi kunwari dito, ang dice 1 is 2, pero ang dice 2 is 5. So magkaiba na yung sasagot doon. Okay? So let's just complete. So 2 plus 2 is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Kung napansin nyo, may pattern. 6, 7, 8. You have 6, 7, 8, 9. 7, 8, 9. Then this is 7. Oh, mali. Ito ay 8. Tama. Then 9, 10, 9, 10. This is 10, 11, and 12. Bakit importante na ilista lahat? Kasi when we deal with probability, bibilangin na natin sila kung ilang beses sila nag-occur o umulit. So kapag ang tanong is, how many times or how many sevens can occur at a time, we could have just count. Bibilangin na lang natin kung ilan yung 7. So we have 7 out of 36. 6 out of 36 outcomes, 7 ang lalabas. Okay? O kaya, ilan yung 2 na pwedeng lumabas dun sa ating 36 outcomes? Isa lang out of 36. And that's how you deal with probability. Bibilangin natin lahat. Okay? Tsaka natin i-specify yung specific na kukunin natin. Kasi nga favorable yung kailangan. Okay, for the last example, usually sa shirt designs, ginagamit din yung konsepto na ito. Kasi syempre, no, kapag nagde-design tayo ng product natin, titingnan natin kung ano yung mga combination na pwedeng lumabas. So, kunwari sa t-shirt, we have 3 sizes, and then we have 2 colors and 2 designs. Ano yung mga possible combinations or outcomes? So, kung sa size may 3, at kung sa small pa lang, may 2 ng kulay, black and white. And then sa design, yung black, pwedeng plain, pwedeng may design na logo. 2 kagad yun. So, kailangan nating ilahat. So, ayan, 2 outcome. So, kailangan, kompleto pa rin sila sa paggawa natin. Ayan. So, iniisa-isa talaga natin when we count or when we list the possible outcomes. Okay? Pero kapag ang tanong ay how many, may technique lang tayong gagawin. And we will have that for next week. Okay? So, actually, we could count. There are actually 12 combinations or 12 possible outcomes. And the technique will be taught or sa ating ETUlay online tutorial, we will have that for next week. And ang tawag natin doon sa technique na yon, if you want to read in advance, it's called the fundamental counting principle. Okay? And we'll have more applications of this next time. So let's have a very quick self-check. Have we illustrated the experiment, outcome, sample space, and event? Yes. Tandaan lang po natin yung differences on those terms, especially the experiment and the event. Ang event, kinukuha natin is specific subset or part ng sample space. Depende syempre sa description. And lastly, we have count the number of occurrences and actually list down possible outcomes in an experiment using different methods. We have the listing, we have table, and we have the tree diagram. Next week, we will have the fundamental counting principle. Ayan. With that, I hope that you have learned a lot. balitaan natin yung ating mga kaklase, ating mga estudyante, pati rin yung ating mga magulang na yung ating DepEd ETUlay online tutorial ay laging available sa inyo at pwede niyo pag-aralan at your own time and at your own place. Okay? With that, good afternoon and magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Happy weekend.